Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche 935 and BMW M2 Multiclass here at Circuit Zandvoort. And it is round 4 of our series as our series leader Reece Tattersall tries to get himself back underway after an uncharacteristic spin. We have some time to take a look at our standings in the GT2 class, and it is Reece Tattersall leading the way ahead of Matthew Parry and Balazs Feher, rounding out the top 3, with Jeremy Thomas and Ben Lopard tied in P4. And we have Sampar Peltari, Radius Spartes, Thomas Perello, Chris Wright and Philinez Nitro rounding out the top 10. And we're starting to get our first few laps on the board as Matthew Parry setting the pace in the early stages of this qualifying session. With a 1:42.280, Balazs Feher some 1.1 seconds off of the pace set by Parry. We then have Attila Nemeth running down in P3 with Jeremy Thomas, a time on the board good enough for P4, with Philinez Nitro in P6 as Skapas jumps up into P2. We then have Hef Martin in P7, some 5 seconds off the overall pace. And it looked like there might have been a moment there for Martin, as I think that's Skapas going headlong into the wall. As the wet conditions catching out some drivers here. As Reece Tattersall does get a valid time on the board after his spin on his previous lap. Only a 1:42.7 at the moment. Almost half a second off of the pace shown by our current pole sitter, Mr. Matthew Parry. As Balazs Feher improves up to P2 on the flashing lights as he crosses the line. Pleased with that lap, just free constantly on the blinkers. I think he may know that he's on the stream, or is just very excited to be here at Zandvoort. Bjorn King has sorted himself up into P7 now with a 1:43.5. Got a lot of drivers with times in those mid-43s. Still Matthew Parry looking relatively unchallenged at the front, 3/10 back to his nearest competitor. And Reece Tattersall, the current championship leader, half a second off at the moment. We're getting more and more laps in. Now, first time seeing these cars in these wet conditions. Looking like these 935s are a bit of a handful. As, I'm not sure who that is, but someone well off into the dirt, and I wonder if that did disrupt the lap of Tattersall as he posts a 1:42.367, 1.5 tenths off of our provisional pole sitter Matthew Parry, who is not improving on this lap. He's actually very consistent in his pace. Might be about to exactly match his previous lap times. He comes to cross the line here. As we look further down our order, our series sponsor is out on track, Mr. Chris Wright. Currently on a 1:45.7. Seeing his lap time improve on this lap, and one driver who's looking to improve their lap time, going quickly this time around. Currently 1.5 tenths off of the overall pace, with Matthew Parry not on a fast lap at the moment. Reece Tattersall, one corner left to go. And this, see our championship leader putting himself at the top of the field as he comes to cross the line with a 1:41.892. First of our drivers into the 41s, and that is pole position for now for Tattersall. The drivers are looking to improve at the moment. Blasphey here now, just coming out of the final corner. Does he have the pace to get in front of Parry? Not quite, just off by 0.03 of a second. We'll have one more attempt at a flying lap before the end of this session. So Ben Lopard currently down in P5 on a 1:42.877. Has got Scapas just a couple of hundredths ahead on the timings. Potential for an improvement in position here if Lopard can just find a little extra time on this lap. Going well so far, but we will try not to curse the drivers. They come through the final few corners, getting very sideways, and I think that may have just thrown away the time as Ben Lopard exits the final corner of the circuit. And well, I think we did sufficiently commentators curse him there as he crosses the line. I don't think we're going to see any improvement at all there from Lopard. Still enough time for one more flying lap. Looking like Matthew Parry currently on an invalid lap. Whereabouts on the circuit is he? As the clock timer hits 10 minutes, that is session over for Matthew Parry. P2 will be the best that he can get here at Zandvoort, in qualifying at least. We'll have some work to do in the race, as Thomas Pirello slots himself up into P4 with a good late lap. It was a 1:42.762, 8.7 tenths off of Reece Tattersall, as Ben Lopard. Still a few corners left to go on what will be his, actually one whole sector left to go actually, on what will be his final flyer. Into, oh, and that is a little bit too much curb on the entry into the chicane, and that is going to be a lap over for Ben Lopard. Didn't need to find much in order to get himself up to P4, but I think that is out of the question now, as Chris Wright, approaching also into the final couple of corners, is finding plenty of time on this final lap. Does need to find considerable amount of time to challenge Freytag up ahead. Will he get it? A second found there for Wright, moves up to P12. Also jumping Felenez Nitro. A good final lap from Wright, as Savak Klinger is our leader out on the track. Will be the first to head onto a flying lap for our M2s. As we take a look at the TCX standings, it is Luke Tranmer who is leading the way ahead of Ostrek Svoboda, and well, actually joint first with Svoboda and Ilatilot. Apologies for completely butchering the name. I'm sure I may have butchered it even further in the last round, so apologies. They have Lennon Bromfield not far behind. Taze Fuser, Jakub Borovic joint on 5th position, with Anthony Vitt-Chappelle in 7th. 8th, 9th and 10th are Marco Lorenzo, Jules Flint and Maya Van Dijk. And as one of our drivers on the outlap dives out of the way, we can go on board with Klinger. as we head down the hill, a very wet Zandvoort circuit. And as we always call out, these M2s do take time to get heat into their tyres, especially so when the track is wet, but the wet tyres will be helping out here. Should be quicker to get on to pace than we usually see for the M2 class, as we have just one corner remaining. For those of you new to ACC, we still have the old bankless version of Zandvoort here, with its flat final corner, as Klinger crosses the line for a 1:54.9. That is some 13 seconds off of our fastest lap from the Porsches, as Svoboda goes fastest, 1:53.255. Ahead of Italo of Boomer Racing. And Atakalaskan up into P3. I wonder if this rainy conditions will shuffle up the order in the TCX class. Still seeing Svoboda up at the front. And yet to see, oh no, we see lap from Borovic up into P25 overall. Is P7 in class. As we have Paul Cook returning to the series, currently down in P26 overall. That is P8 in class, but finding heaps of time on the second flying lap. Should see them get to the low 155s. We should see plenty of time improvements throughout the session, not necessarily as the cars gain performance, as the drivers get confident with these conditions, working out where the grip is, where it is not. More to the point, there's plenty of drivers posting big improvements on their lap time. Jules Flint, and across the line, moves up to P22, improves by almost a second. As Cook now crossing line should improve by the same second, so beginning to see slightly more representative lap times. As Kalaskan going well on this lap as they climb the hill through the twisting corners that slot themselves between these dunes here at Zandvoort. Amazing, the undulations you wouldn't expect to get in a country such as the Netherlands and so close to the coast. But it does give this Zandvoort circuit its unique nature. Still, Svoboda setting the pace for now. As it's just quiet and controlled here. Drivers finding their comfort levels. And it's looking like Svoboda and Litalo in a league of their own, some second quicker than everyone else behind them. As Kalaskan getting well out onto the exit curbing there, does manage to keep it valid. A bit more confident through the second to last corner into the final corner now. Should be completely flat in these M2s as it comes to cross the line. Should jump back ahead of Bromfield as he does. Yep, with a 1:53.940. That's now 3 drivers we have in the 1:53s. As both Svoboda and Litalo head on to another flyer. Bromfield improving on this lap as well. It's Litalo who is improving at the moment. I think there's Bromfield ahead of them on circuit. And this could be a challenge for pole position here. We are, well, I think, looking like Litalo should get a couple of chances here as long as they keep this lap tidy. Don't know how much they will have fueled for. We'll get a nice little bit of a tow off of the car ahead of them. Needs to find just under a 10th in order to challenge Svoboda for that class pole position. Just 2 corners left to go. Actually, no, so that is Elberg ahead, I think. Looking at the... yes, it is indeed. Apologies, Elberg. I was... didn't realise that was a silver car. I thought that was black. As, Elberg hard into the wall. And now diving off into the pit lane. Will not get a chance at another flyer after that heavy collision with the wall. Anthony Victor Chappelle. 2 corners, or one sector left to go. See their lap time improve. Well, a Nitro crossing the line. Will stay P30 overall for now. Chappelle coming to the last 2 corners of the circuit now. Was up on their previous best, just letting the time slip away a little bit now as they come to cross the line. Needs to find a couple of tenths to challenge Cook, and in the end doesn't quite have it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our session. As all the drivers who can improve have completed their laps. As we wait for the session to switch over to race, I remind you of the top 3 in each of our classes. In the Porsche 935's GT2 class, it is Rhys Tattersall, Matthew Parry and Balazs Fehi. And top 3 in the BMW M2 TCX cars will be Italo, Svoboda and Kalaskan. As our drivers line up on the grid, and take you through our starting order for tonight's race. On pole position, it is the candy coloured car of Rhys Tattersall. We'll be starting alongside Matthew Parry in the Golf livery. On the second row, we have got Balazs Fehi starting in P3 in that familiar unicorn livery car. Starting alongside Thomas Pirello in the 712. Skapas is in 1 the 106 car, and we'll be starting tonight's race in P5 alongside Ben Lopard in the 713. Remy Thomas is in the number 714. We'll be starting in P7 tonight, and we'll be starting alongside Bjorn King. Sampa Peltari is in P9, and we'll be starting alongside Attila Nemeth. John Sawyer is in P11 alongside our series sponsor Chris Wright. There's Nitro in P13 with Sven Freitag in P14. Jesper Swingley is in P15 with Iridius Partes in P16. F. Martin is in P17 with the final of our 935 runners, and that is Rhys Burns. We head on over to our BMWs, and the driver we've seen near the front the last couple of rounds, Jan Vitalo, is in P1 in the BMW class. That is P19 overall, and they will be starting alongside Wojtek Svoboda in that light speed racing car. The driver who currently finds themselves in joint first in the standings. On the second row of the BMWs, P3 in class, is the Splatoon liveried Atta Kalaskan, who will be starting alongside Lennon Bromfield, who doesn't seem to be running his Amazon liveried car today, which is a great shame. In P23 we have got the double yellowed motorsport, the first of our double yellowed motorsport, Jules Flint, be starting alongside Paul Cook. Anthony Vitch-Chappelle, one of, I believe, will be 3 double yellow motorsport cars, is in P25 with a Jakub Borovic in P26. Savak Klinger is in number 27 in the number 666 car, with Karl Minsky in P28. We then have Christopher Elberg in P29 with Lotto Nitro, maybe slightly out of position there. And then have Michael Lorenzon in P32. Oops, and we missed Alex Perry, who is, they're all jumping backwards and forwards in the order. And it's Alex Perry who's starting in P30. We then have Ben Beams in P33. Finally, at the back of the field is Martin Spasov in P34. And it's a long formation lap here at Zandvoort, and tricky conditions to start this race. We come down into the final few corners of the racing circuit. Drivers should be fairly familiar with the conditions. Nothing much seems to have changed since our qualifying session. Who will be brave into the braking zone at turn 1. Tricky at the best of times here at Zandvoort, and with this wet and slippery conditions, going to be interesting who can hold on to it. And let's just hope and pray that we don't see a massive pile up into the first corner, and everyone can keep it nice and clean for the start of this race. It's a tight and twisty first sector of the racetrack, and we'll require everyone to be giving it their all as we head down towards the lights and await the green flag to get this race started here, the dunes of Zandvoort. And it's a good start by the things from Rhys Tattersall, but Matthew Parry keeping well with him. Looks like we've got a little bit of a collision in the background. That is Thomas Pirello, I believe, around as the entire field tries to make its way through. Rhys Tattersall and Matthew Parry have got away with Balazs Fahir in tow. But behind that, all manner of chaos seems to have kicked off. And what has happened with our BMW field, looks like Italo is in the lead of that race, still with Jules Flint in P2. Kalaskan and Svoboda dropping back in amongst a bit of the chaos. And we do have, it was the car we saw pointing backwards. Thomas Pirello now finds himself towards the back end of the M2 field. And this is going to be a horrible bit of the racetrack to try and get past this BMW traffic as they try and make their way through. Jeremy Thomas making a move on Bjorn King. That is battle for P6 as we have a train of cars queuing up behind them. And it does seem like Ben Lopard also made it through the melee at the start and finds himself up into P4. Finding 2 positions on the opening lap and is now right on the back of Balazs Fay here as we head down into the first corner. And Sven Freitag has found 9 positions on this opening lap. A phenomenal start there. Up into P5. As things do settle down, we still have Thomas Pirello trying to extract themselves from the BMWs behind. Just a few cars left to go to make their way through. Let's see if we can find what happened at the start of this race. It was Thomas Pirello, the 712 car that I think initiated that. I can't see them on my time, so let's have a look and see if we can find what happened at the start. Oh, all sorts, I think, is the answer. There's 714 and 106 made it through. Many other cars, I think, did not. Chris Wright having an okay start to this race, up into P10. Finding positions where others lost out. But it is Jan Italo who leads the BMWs. Currently P16 overall. 1 Porsche still behind him. Well, actually, with looks like Thomas Pirello and Hef Martin have served their mandatory pit stops now. But Italo with a huge lead over Jules Flint after just 2 laps of this race. And is Svoboda looking to try and make a move as Flint goes deep into the corner, gives Svoboda the inside line, and that is P2 for Svoboda. Oh, actually, I was about to say you can start thinking about hunting down Italo at the front, but goes well off the circuit, loses out to Flint, and may lose another position here, and maybe more, as Atta Kalaskan closing in on this run through the dunes. Side by side they go. And out onto the slippery grass goes Kalaskan, somehow keeping it together, loses a position in the process, but importantly keeping it out of the barriers and away from the other cars. Atta Kalaskan lives to fight another day. In the Porsche class, we have Filinis Nitro and Attila Nemeth battling out over P11 with Aurelius Partes involved in this one as well. Up the inside of Nemeth at the moment they go. Skapas and Sawyer behind going side by side as well. This is a 5-car battle. It looks like Nitro just managed to extract themselves from this one. as it all gets a little bit chaotic behind. Is that Nemeth peeling off into the pit lane? No, so yeah, Burns and Nemeth off into the pit lane. So these drivers are clear to continue racing. I think Nemeth just opting to get out of this skirmish, get themselves into some clean air. Though the danger with pitting early at these multi-class events means you could end yourself up with a whole different type of traffic that you maybe would like even less. As our Porsche class is spreading out a little bit, our tighter battles seem to be in the M2 class, as we have got the double yellow motorsport pair of Flint and Chappelle battling now over P2 in the race. Svoboda, after their off-track excursion, catching up onto the back of this pair. And behind we can see Cook with Kalaskan all over their tail. Minsky has made their way past Nitro, that over P22 in the race, and Elberg having a look on Nitro now as we head plunging down through the dunes as Klinger and Borovic close together through this sequence of corners. Everyone looking for an appropriate line to make their way through. Klinger up the inside of Elberg there. Lovely move. And Elberg actually looking for the switchback, but will turn into the outside as they come into the long hairpin leading on to the back straight. Not one to really hold on around the outside, and Slavik Klinger into P24 as Chappelle, not sure what's happened there to Chappelle, but dropping backwards. Svoboda and Chappelle side by side coming into the chicane. I think that's Chappelle. Oh, I was going to say making avoiding action, but well, that was less avoiding and more collision action there into the side of Svoboda, and that sees Chappelle dropping back to P22. Now finds themselves behind Mikhail Minsky. And just at the head of the big battle we were watching earlier on. Out in front, Reese Tattersall still leading the way now with a 4.1 second gap ahead of Matthew Parry, who has a further 4 second lead over Balazs Feher. Our first battle on the racetrack is this one we see right here. Balazs Feher and Ben Lopard. This is the battle for P3, that final spot on the podium. Things opening up a little bit behind after we had the lap 1 collision. Did cause a substantial amount of field spread behind our top 4. As Jeremy Thomas and Bjorn King have not been able to separate themselves. Thought after Thomas made his way past King, it might have been able to drive away, but does not seem to be the case. These two very close together as we come on to the 6th lap of this race. We then have Sampa Pautari and Chris Wright. Chris Wright, who has made his way up into P9, started this race in P12. So there's been a good few opening laps here for our series sponsor, Mr. Simquips himself. And down in the BMWs, it is still Ilatalo who leads the way. A P15 overall, and that is an incident there for Bjorn King. What was that? Jeremy Thomas going pretty sideways, and then King going even more sideways and off the circuit up into the dunes. Interesting place to find the car. There's a big old hill to climb. A little bit of damage to the front of the car, but gets to carry on. Now down behind Irideus Partes in P13. As I was saying, it is Natalo with an 11-second lead over Jules Flint. Jules Flint, who has some close company with Svoboda and Kalaskan in very tight company now. As we descend through the dunes, snaking left, snaking right, and it is close battling. They all managed to keep it on circuit. We've seen a few people dipping wheels out onto the grass through this sequence of turns. And in these wet conditions, you do not want to be touching that grass. As three of them make their way through, we have Attila Nemeth, after making their early pit stop, trying to find their way through. Should have an easy job of it as we come onto the back straight. That 935 with a lot more straight line speed than the BMWs ahead. Needs to make sure that the cars in front of him don't end up going side by side. Can be somewhat unpredictable. As behind we have Lennon Bromfield and Paul Cook going side by side. Bromfield trying to swing it around the outside wheel turn onto the inside in the next corner, and that is Bromfield up into P20. As still Flint holding off in front of Zaboda, but as Flint puts a couple of wheels out onto the gravel, again going pretty sideways through this final corner. These drivers in the BMWs really finding tricky conditions out there. Very, very slippy as Kalaskan gets a very good run out of the final corner. Will we be able to make the move on the Boda here as they go side by side into the corner? Kalaskan holding the inside line, but looks like Zaboda getting the better run out onto the exit, able to carry that speed using the high line there on the not so banked as we see it now corner, but enough to give that advantage in these wet conditions. So they continue to follow their way through. We have got our race leaders, our trio of race leaders I should say, into the pits. Parry, Fahir, Tattersall all into the pit lane as Chris Wright and Peltari battling out. Track conditions now being reported as damp, so I wonder if we'll see our drivers out front opting to go on to the dry tyres to try and find a little bit of pace. We now have Reese Tattersall out on circuit. Track still looks awfully wet, and but maybe someone with better eyesight than me will be able to tell what tyres Reese Tattersall is on. Never can tell the difference in ACC. As we have a battle over P7 here. Flenes Nitro with Partes and King right in tow. King looking around the outside of Partes. This is close, clean battling. This is what we like to see. As they find themselves approaching... Actually, I was going to say onto some back markers, but no, it looks like that is actually just, I think, swinging up ahead. These three not slowing each other down too much with this battling, as King goes deep into the corner, tries to get the car turning while under brakes and very nearly loops it. Does well to get it pointing back in the right direction, but does lose plenty of time to those cars ahead. As we've now got Peltari into the pits, this has unleashed Chris Wright into the lead of the race. And with Zaboda still trying to find a way past Flint. Second, this gap at 0.1 seconds now. Right on that rear bumper. Almost pushing Flint through these corners. Just trying to find a way through. Going to try and open up its final corner. Try and find a better line on the exit as Zaboda tries to line this one up. Will have a very good exit. We have reports that the tyre is on the dry tyre. As Zaboda four-wheel drifting it around the corner and makes contact with the wall. Now has Lennon Bromfield in close company and has dropped just over 3 seconds off the back of Jules Flint. As Hef Martin makes her way through. We have Pirello as... so that is Hef Martin making their way through. We now have Flint. And I'm not sure who that is up ahead, actually. I was going to say it was Bromfield, but Bromfield's behind. I think that this is Flint coming to lap one of the rear-running BMWs. That makes a hop over the curb. As Nitro and Partes dive off into the pit lane. Chris Wright also in the pit lane. This will promote Reece Tattersall up into P2, which will turn into the overall lead once John Sawyer pits. So it's there a mandatory pit stop. Matthew Parry now 6.5 seconds behind our race leader, just coming around the first corner, with Balazs Feher a further 6 seconds behind yet. Battle for P3 has somewhat died down. Ben Leppard now 2.3 seconds off of Balazs Feher, with Freitag and Thomas also dropping off. It does seem like we're getting a little bit of field spread in our Porsches, not able to follow so closely in these conditions. There's also quieting down in the TCX field, as a few of our drivers have made their mandatory pit stops, others opting to remain out on circuit. I'm sure once those all shake out, we should see a resume to racing, as Elberg is on the back of Lolo Nitro as we come into the final sector of the racetrack. It's good to see our battle for P11 has resumed. There's Nitro close behind Nemeth, and then we have got King and Partes close behind on this battle as well. Conditions looking slippy out there. There's, whoa, Sean King having a right old snap there behind Nitro, as we now are coming onto our back marker traffic, and that is Partes around 270 degree spin the wrong way, and Peltari now all over the back of Partes as they make their way through the traffic. We're getting Nitro and King in close proximity. Space left by the 301 car as Nitro and King come down towards the first corner. Nitro squeezing, constricting that line for King. And King just taking it a little bit too deep, trying to be smart there, opening up the corner, but I think that extra little bit of steering did not please front tyres of that car. In these conditions, you really can't be overlapping inputs like that. You're doing quite well not to sail off into the sand, as Jesper Swingley has got Attila Nemeth for company. And into the wall with Jesper Swingley. That is an unfortunate place to spin, and not gonna. I was gonna say not going to be an easy place to get back going again, but heavy collision there, and that is going to be race over for Jesper Swingley. Sampa Potari, I think that is going to be terminal damage on that car. Does not seem to be able to make that thing turn right. An unfortunate end to what was looking like a decent race for Peltari. Just catching Swingley pointing the wrong direction. And that has neutralised some of the racing we were seeing before. Scapas now on the back of John Sawyers. That is, looks like that Atakalascan jumping over the gravel, over the grass. here at Zandvoort. I expect we will see a number of drivers needing to make a second pit stop as Skapas and Sawyer goes side by side. Slight door rubbing as they come through this first sector of the track. And we also have Ben Lopart caught up now to the back of Balazs Fahit, 0.7 seconds behind. Closing gradually as we have just under 9 minutes of this race remaining. And Bromfield has made his way past Paul Cook. That is up into P6 in class as Cook makes way for Felenez Nitro. Nitro being very cautious as they pick their way through the back marker traffic. Has also got King for close company. And Bromfield running wide. This is all making for some interesting battling. And as we always say in these multi-class races, part of the skill is managing the traffic. Even running around on your own at your own pace, you are eventually going to come across someone of the other class. And it's all about how do you get rid of that traffic without costing yourself too much time. For Ben Lopart and Balazs Fahit, we'll see another of the slower BMWs up ahead. Balazs Fahit on the blinkers. Makes his way past the BMW. BMW off the circuit there by the looks of things. Ben Lopart closing in as we approach the end of this fourth round of the season. Oh, looking like a little bit of a non-compliant rear end there for Balazs Fahit as we come out onto the back straight. It's the battle for the final podium position in Porsche class. As Thomas Pirello makes his way, maybe makes his way past Felenez Nitro. Up the inside goes Thomas Pirello. Gets the car fully ahead for the next corner, and that is move made for Thomas Pirello up into P12 overall. As Ben Lopart still looking for a way to get past Balazs Fahit. As we X out onto the winding path through the dunes. With these drivers positioning the car well, we've seen numerous drivers dipping wheels onto the grass. We have more battling between Skapas and Sawyer as they pick their way past the BMW. BMW a couple of wheels out onto the grass, manages to keep it pointing in the right direction. Skapas really pressuring the back of Sawyer as we come into the final moments of this race. We also now have a battle over P3 in the BMWs as Jules Flint on the back of Svoboda. That is the battle for P3 in the BMW, sorry, in the Porsches that we will check in with. As Ben Lopart right in the slipstream of Balazs Fahit, and that's Matthew Parry up ahead, losing time. Hand over fist, has something happened to Matthew Parry? Number 85 car. Nothing I can see on my incident sheet. But Balazs Fahir and Ben Lopard have caught right up onto the back. One of our title challengers. And this could be a three-way battle. P2. As Thomas Pirello has lost 3 positions. That's now down in P13. Bjorn King and Renes Nitro making their way through. That gap now to Matthew Parry at 0.8 seconds. I wonder if there is a tyre difference here. Not that something I can see on my telemetry or statistics. Looking like Lopard may have changed tyres in the stop, 32 seconds stop. But for Fahir and Parry, 27 seconds stop in the box, so are running on the same tyres they started this race on. This is now very much a three-way battle over P2. P1 in this race very much dealt with, barring any sort of incident for Reece Tattersall. 19 seconds is the lead he holds over P2 man Matthew Parry. We head into the final 3 minutes of this race. Things really hotting up here in the Porsche class. It's looking like we had a fairly solid top 3 some 5 minutes ago. Whether it's protecting tyres or just gaining confidence, but Balazs Fahir and Ben Lopard looking like they have the pace at the moment. Still looking like Reece Tattersall, the driver with the overall pace. And the current pace of everyone now miles off of what we've seen as the best laps in the race. I think these track conditions have been getting steadily worse throughout this race. As Ben Lopard looking up the inside. The BMW just catching Balazs Fahir out at the wrong possible moment. And Lopard also getting caught out on the blinkers. We see that one from another angle. Through the sequence of corners, Lopard was ahead. Balazs Fahir taking to the inside. And looked like Ben Lopard there just getting slightly caught offline. And now Balazs Fahir breathing down the neck of Matthew Parry. Reminder this, the race over P2. And with Reece Tattersall on his final lap, we should still have 2 laps of this race remaining. Will be tight at the end, I think, actually. It could be the final lap. Depends if Reece Tattersall wants to back off and end this one early. Definitely has the space to do so. As these 3 duke it out. We'll stick with this battle for now. Things in the BMWs calm down somewhat. It is Lautaro in P1 with Kalaskan and Flint, and not the rest of the top 3, as we have one of our BMWs getting well out of the way of this battle. As we get to the section of track where Ben Lopard was able to find an advantage before. Gets alongside Balazs Fahir. Will have to contend with the outside of the circuit. Getting very sideways there is Ben Lopard. That is going to cost him down this long run towards the chicane. But has Balazs Fahir got anything to attack Matthew Parry as we come across the line? And Reece Tattersall takes us onto a very close final lap of this race. I hope everyone's fueled for it, because it was a little bit dicey as to whether we would get another lap there, but Reece Tattersall just about cutting the beam as Balazs Fahir's got the best opportunity he's had so far. Well up the inside there of Matthew Parry. Oh, and there's contact there between Fahir and Parry, and that is Ben Lopard through into P2. Not quite the situation anyone was expecting, as Matthew Parry now dropped down into P5 with Freitag making their way through as well. Let's see if we can get that one from the helicam as they came down into the hairpin. Is Fahir on the inside getting a bit of understeer, and one of the BMWs getting spooked there as well, and that allowed Lopard and Freitag through. Matthew Parry getting well and truly caught out there. Dropped into P5, losing 3 positions in that one move. Wonder if the stewards will have an opinion to give on that one. As now Ben Lopard and Balazs Fahir battling it out over P2, and now Freitag getting involved in this one as well, as we head into the final few corners of our final lap of the race, as Rhys Tattersall takes the win here at Zandvoort. We don't have much time to pay attention to our race winner, as alone as he seems on circuit, it is the battle over P2 that we will keep with for now. As we come through the final corner, Ben Lopard well out onto the grass. It's not that long a run down to the line though, will be saved. Takes P2, Balazs Fahir P3, Freitag in P4. And Matthew Parry will have to settle for P5 in this race. Ilatalo did just about manage to get onto another lap, so will be the lone runner of the BMWs on 17 laps of this race. Atakalaskan taking a P2 with Jules Flint on P3. P4 goes to Jakub Borovic with Paul Cook in P5. As there's still a few battles out on track. Thomas Pirello, it's the battle for P12. Chasing down Fellines Nitro as we come through the final corner. Thomas Pirello with a good run. Whoa, a very sideways run out of the final corner, but there's Nitro holding on to P12 in the end. As Natale rounds the final corner to finally take the checkered flag, the last of our runners, but P1 in the BMWs. So big congratulations to our class podium finishers in that race. In the Porsche 935s, it was Rhys Tattersall, Ben Lopard and Balazs Fahir. After that race incident knocked Matthew Parry down to a ignoble P5. And in the BMW M2 TCX class, it was Jan Ilatalo, Atakalaskan and Jules Flint who finished on our podium. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed our wet weather round at Zandvoort. If you did enjoy, please do remember to like and subscribe. It really does help us out here over at Pitskill. And do check out pitskill.io, where you can find the daily and weekly series. Get yourself out on track, get into our close battles. Love to see you out on circuit. And do check out the pitskill.io Twitch and YouTube channels, where you'll find the remainder of our races being broadcast, with the highlight of the week always being the GT3 Elites on Wednesdays, with the best of the best battle it out, which of course this week will also be at Zandvoort. And then tune in back here, same time, same place next week, when the Pitskill.io Porsche 935 and BMW M2 Multiclass will be heading to the treacherous mountain of Bathurst as we take to Mount Panorama. Again, it reminds me to say thank you very much for watching, and I will leave you with the highlights of tonight's race. Good night.